brought to you by themobilefarmer.com.
So we're here for another edition of Ag Nerds. This week we are going to be talking about recent news. And one of the big things in the news is Google trying to buy Motorola. And we're joined by Peter Gredig. How are you doing today, Pete?
Good, Sean. How are you doing?
Good. Okay, Pete, what was your first reaction to this huge announcement Monday morning?
Well, I guess we're starting to see this rationalization in the mobile sector where the software side is starting to look for partners on the hardware side. Apple's had that advantage sort of from the beginning, but on the Android side, we've had all these different manufacturers using Google's Android system, and the advantage of it being that you have all these hardware developers trying to compete with each other, bringing better devices to the market to take better advantage of that Android system, which is really open and has gotten a lot of traction in the US. So I guess I was kind of surprised that Google would look to hitch their horse to that cart, because I think it creates some issues for the other manufacturers that are outside that relationship, sort of like Sony Ericsson, HTC, Samsung. So, I've read a couple of articles and they describe how it may complicate that business model where Google's had the Android system and had all these different manufacturers competing to bring the best device to the market. So,
right. But if you look at it from look at the seed industry, right? So look at it as there's companies like Monsanto that have their own canola portfolio, but they also license out those traits to other companies to use to retail. So that's I kind of look at it as I think it kind of works because
that's a good analogy.
It kind of allows them to have their own device platform, but they can also license out to the HTCs and the Samsungs, and they will still have access. Now, as we know in the seed example, sometimes those licensors don't have the access to the best traits or some of the best varieties. So that may be an issue, but the model can work, and we've seen it in the seed industry.
Yeah, you and I have talked about it. We need to learn more about the Android system. North of the border in Canada, it hasn't been that popular.
It's my next phone. I'm getting one.
Well, that's what we were talking about. Take one for the team. But,
I'm gonna get Jeff. I'm gonna make Jeff Fowle and Ray Proc very happy that I'm gonna get one.
Well, there you go. You're in the brotherhood of the Droid, but. I don't know that many farmers that use it
here
where I farm, but I think there's no disputing that it's a juggernaut, and they're really gaining market share rapidly. So it's something to watch for, and we'll see how it pans out, the new deal.
Well, as I was telling you before, I think it was last week, you and I were talking over having a beer, is that if you look at, I was watching Twit, which is This Week in Tech with Leo Laporte. It's a weekly tech show for those that don't know about it. And Leo was saying, who here has an iPhone based at the table? And it was like one guy, and he's like, why? If he was an iPhone person, switched to the Droid. He's like, there's nothing. It's not even close. So I'm just curious to see. My wife, I have a BlackBerry Torch. My wife has an iPhone 4 now. I want to try this Droid and see what is the wow factor.
Yeah. You know what? I guess it's sort of like combine paint color to me. They all do the job, and some people have really emotional attachments to the brand. And that's fine. I don't care. I've got BlackBerry, and now I'm kind of trapped because I bought a Playbook, so I kind of have to have my Torch and my Playbook. So I'm not leaving the BlackBerry fold yet. But I think it's kind of cool that there's options out there, and they're all pushing each other. It's a real competitive marketplace. Yeah. As you know, though, the downside of it is that if you're developing apps, and we're involved with that to some degree, it's tough to develop an app for 4 different operating systems, 4 different platforms, I should say.
Yeah. What do you think about the concept of needing to have the same platform from phone to tablet? So, for example, I have a BlackBerry, but I use an iPad.
Right.
If I have a BlackBerry, so it works, it functions. There's some things that don't. I wish it would cross better. What do you think about that? Yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think you need to stay within the same platform when you go phone to tablet?
I don't think so. I guess in a perfect world, our BlackBerries and Mac computers and iPads would all sync seamlessly. They don't. I think we'll have to get there eventually, but right now, I would say that the Playbook tethering to the BlackBerry is a bit of a disadvantage, to be honest with you. And
Right.
I don't see it as an upside. I see it as somewhat of a disadvantage.
So if I have an iPad, I like the iPad. I have really no desire to go to a Droid tablet or to the Playbook at this point. Am I okay getting a Droid phone?
Why not? You have the Droid phone, you'll have your iPad, and you'll have a spare torch when you need it for your BBM, right? Because that's really one of the reasons we both like BlackBerry. But so let me throw this at you. I've heard the rumor mentioned a few times that Microsoft would be the ideal partner for RIM. What do you think of that? Is that just is there smoke in that fire, or is there?
So why do you think it's ideal?
I don't know. I've heard that rumored, and RIM seems to be struggling to some degree, and there's been talk that someone will step in and buy them.
Well, I think maybe it's because Microsoft has all the cash, or a lot of cash, and is really, even though I've heard very good things about the Windows 7 phone, is really not taking a lot of share. Microsoft's kind of been left in the dark here a little bit behind some of the others, and RIM's based on their stock price of around, I don't know, around $25. I have no idea where it is now. A little bit ripe for the picking. The reality is, though, from a software perspective, it's it's a totally different platform, right? So it would be obviously from a takeover standpoint, it would make sense. But is it like eBay buying Skype, or is it like Google buying Motorola? We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think we'll look back on this era and say, how it was kind of crazy that people were forced to choose platforms. Well, I'm an Android guy, or I'm a BlackBerry person, or ultimately we'll see these things converge, and they'll be sort of open access. I'm convinced of it. Or one system will sort of dominate. Like we used to have to choose Beta or VHS, right? There was a winner ultimately. Yeah. So I think we'll look back and say, it was kind of a fragmented era that we had a stepping stone to get to where, if you built an app, it would work on all the platforms. So hopefully we get, because I think that's where we need to get to.
Well, I think it'd be very interesting because if I had to bet today, I would honestly I'd bet on Google. Now, I don't know that's not based on anything. I know for my mom, who's not really a techie, she loves her iPhone because it's simple. She finds it easy to use. So they've really connected with that group. But as this generation coming up is obviously way more tech savvy, able to dive into things, it just seems like Google will be able to tap into that a little bit better. And basically, you got to also remember their web presence as well. So
yeah. Well, I think you mentioned it earlier too, that when we were talking about this, that one of the things with Apple is how much control they have, not only of what software is developed as applications, right? They are the gatekeeper, and they vet everything, and you only can buy or access programming that they have approved. Whereas on the Android side, it's been sort of more entrepreneurial, more wide open, and there can be issues with that. I've heard, there can be issues with bad programming or potential virus, that kind of stuff. But it's wide open, and it really stimulates development of kind of grassroots programming, and that's what's really cool about mobile programming technology. So you might be right. We'll see.
Okay, Pete, until next time, we will talk to you soon.
Okay, go buy that Droid.
I will. Talk to you later, man.